CSS Lesson 1 covers an introduction to CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS defines how an HTML element will be displayed in the browser. CSS was developed to replace the old way of styling HTML, which we used earlier in the semester. CSS has its own syntax, which is different from HTML. Some of the benefits of CSS are that you have more control over the layout. It is much easier to maintain than the old way. It allows you to streamline documents and make them load faster, and it's more accessible to users with disabilities. To prepare your web pages for CSS, you want to make sure that your markup has HTML coded correctly with all the opening and closing tags, that you've used meaningful tags that match the content. So a paragraph's a paragraph, a list is a list, a heading is a heading, and you do not want to leave any text unformatted. Additionally, if you're using an old page, you want to remove any of the old type styling. So CSS has its own syntax. Here's an example. The first element is called a selector. In our example, it's the H1 tag. This means we're going to be styling the H1 tag. The rest of the syntax is called a declaration block. The declaration block goes from the opening curly bracket to the closing curly bracket. Inside the declaration block are the individual declarations. The example has two. The first declaration sets the color of the H1 to blue. Color is the property, blue is the value. They are separated by a colon. A declaration ends with a semicolon. The second declaration in our example sets the font size to 12 pixels. There are three ways to apply CSS to HTML. The first way is called inline styles. Here, the CSS is placed directly inside the HTML element using the style attribute. The example at the bottom of the page sets the color of this paragraph to red and the font weight to bold. Since the style attribute is used inside the tag, you only need the declarations. This style will only apply to this paragraph, not to any other paragraph on the page. This is the hardest type of CSS to maintain. Since styles are applied directly to a tag, each tag must be updated if you want to change a style. For this reason, you should reserve it for only very special cases where you don't anticipate using the style over and over throughout a site. The second way to apply a style is through an embedded style sheet. Embedded style sheets use the style tag and are inside the head. The example shows the syntax. The opening style tag contains an attribute called type with the value text/CSS. Inside the style tag, the selector and declaration blocks are typed. In this example, all paragraphs on the page will have text which is red and bold. This is easier to maintain because I can change a declaration or add a declaration and affect all paragraphs on the page. However, these styles only apply to this page. If you have multiple pages, you'll need to change the styles on each page. For this reason, embedded style sheets are still a little hard to maintain, but are useful for special pages or a one-page site. The third way is an external style sheet. Here, styles are placed in a separate CSS document and linked to the HTML page. External style sheets are the easiest to maintain and the best choice for multiple page sites. We'll take a closer look at external style sheets in a future lesson. The rest of this lesson focuses on styling text. There are many CSS properties to style text. The color property defines the text color. Its value can be the color name, the RGB value, or the hex value. In the blue boxes are examples of the CSS color property. On the left, the color property is applied as an inline style to the body tag, the H1 tag, and the P tag. The right box shows the format for an embedded style sheet or an external style sheet. The font family property specifies the font face. This can either be a specific font like Arial or a font family like serif, sans serif, monospace, cursive, or fantasy. Specific font names must be capitalized. Fonts with spaces in the name should be in quotes. However, you are still limited to the fonts that are installed on the user's computer. You can specify multiple fonts separated by commas. If the user has the first font, that's the one that the browser will use. If they don't, the browser will look for the next one in the list. Below are 3 examples of the font family applied to tags. The font size property specifies the size of the font. Again, there are multiple options for its value. You can use a number followed by a length unit, such as pixels, points, centimeters, or ems. You can use a number followed by a percent sign, or you can use a keyword. One note, pixels do not resize in Internet Explorer. This makes pixels less accessible in IE, since an IE user will not be able to resize the text. The most common values for font weight property are normal, bold, and inherit. Normal means normal text. Bold will make the text bold, and inherit will inherit whatever the parent value is. There are other values you can specify: 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, bolder, and lighter. These have variable support by browsers and will usually either look bold or normal. Font style has the values of normal, italics, oblique, and inherit. Most browsers display italics and oblique the same. Font variant specifies whether or not the text should be displayed in a small caps font. Its values are normal, small caps, and inherit. Line height controls the space between the lines of text. Like font size, its value can be a number, a length, a percent, normal, or inherit. The example shows 3 ways to double the line height. Font is a shortcut property that allows you to list all of the font values in one declaration. The order of the values is important. The correct order is font style, font variant, font weight, font size / line height, then font family. When using the font property, font size and font family are required. Font size must come before font family, and font family must always be at the end. The other values are optional. In the example, all of the values are specified. Text align specifies the alignment of the text horizontally on the page. Its values are left, right, center, justify, and inherit. Text indent specifies the indent of the first line of text. Its values can be a length, a percent, or inherit. Text decoration property allows you to specify the decoration of the text to be none, underline, overline, line through, blink, or inherit. Text transform changes the capitalization of the text. Its values can be none, capitalize, lowercase, uppercase, or inherit. There are several other text properties that are less commonly used. These include letter spacing, word spacing, vertical align, white space, visibility, direction, and Unicode BIDI. As you start writing CSS, syntax is very important. If your styles are not showing up, the most common problems are a typo in the selector, property, or value, a missing colon between the property and value, a missing curly bracket at the beginning or end of a declaration block, or a missing semicolon between declarations. As you will quickly learn, CSS has a lot of properties. It's difficult to memorize them all. It is very helpful to use a CSS reference and tutorials. Here are URLs to the W3C schools and HTML dog references and tutorials, but find the tutorial that works for you.